democratic body of the community. He wanted the Commission to be the executive, and he wanted the Council of Ministers to be the Senate. No. No.
Important female world leaders ever. Since the defeat of Hillary Clinton by Donald Trump, many have wondered if Hillary Clinton, a former First Lady, a former New York Senator and Secretary of State, would have been a great President of the United States and joined the list of great women who influenced their country and the world if she had won the U.S. election. Well, we know she didn't win. But let's look at history's 7 most important female world leaders. Top on our list are 1. Prime Minister Golda Meir of Israel. She led her nation from 1969 to 1974. Born in Russia but raised in the United States, Golda Meir was one of many young Jews who emigrated to the British colony of Palestine in the early 20th century. A leading Zionist and labor activist, she was one of the signatories of Israel's 1948 Declaration of Independence. In 1949, she was elected as a Labour Party delegate to the first Israeli parliament and served in a number of cabinet positions under Prime Ministers David Ben-Gurion and Levi Eshkol, before succeeding to the office of Prime Minister herself, following Eshkol's 1969 death. As Prime Minister, Meir's term was dominated by the so-called Yom Kippur War of 1973, in which Israel was unexpectedly invaded by Egypt and Syria. Though the war severely tested Meir's leadership, Israel was ultimately victorious, once again demonstrating the country's military strength in the face of hostile neighbors. She died in 1978. Second on our list is Prime Minister Indira Gandhi of India. She was Prime Minister twice, first from 1966 to 1977, and from 1980 to 1984. Though not related to the famed Indian independence leader Mahatma Gandhi, Indira was the daughter of India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru. She was elected to lead his political party, the Indian National Congress, in 1960, following his death. After serving in the cabinet of Prime Minister Bahadur Shastri, she in turn succeeded to the office of Prime Minister following his death in 1966. Gandhi's 2 terms were tumultuous and eventful, and saw episodes such as a 1971 war with Pakistan over the disputed territory of Kashmir, the development of an Indian nuclear weapons program, and a so-called Green Revolution in farming that transformed the country's agriculture. Her tenure was not a positive time for civil liberties, however, and for much of her rule parliamentary democracy was all but suspended. She was assassinated in 1984. Her burial was well publicized. Third on our list is Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher of the United Kingdom. She was the first female Prime Minister of her country. She held office from 1979 to 1990. Popularly regarded as the Iron Lady, she was the daughter of a shopkeeper. Margaret Thatcher was elected to the British Parliament in 1959 and served in the cabinet of Conservative Prime Minister Edward Heath from 1970 to 1974. In 1975 she was elected leader of the Conservatives and was elected Britain's first female Prime Minister in 1979. Re-elected twice before resigning in 1990, she remains one of the longest-serving female world leaders of all time. She was known for her fierce ideology. Thatcher was best known for steering her political party and country sharply to the right through an aggressive agenda of tax cuts, privatizations, union busting, and cuts to government spending. In 1982 she led her country in a brief, successful war against Argentina to liberate Britain's Falkland Islands from foreign invasion. She died in 2013. Fourth on the list is President Corazon Aquino of the Philippines. She was leader from 1986 to 1992. Corazon Aquino rose to prominence as the wife of Benigno Aquino, a leading opposition politician, under the long dictatorship of Ferdinand Marcos. Following her husband's assassination in 1983, she assumed the leadership of the anti-Marcos opposition, eventually emerging as the leading opposition candidate in the 1986 presidential election, which she won, despite massive fraud from the Marcos campaign. Her inspirational story earned her the title of Time magazine's 1986 Person of the Year. As president, Aquino led a highly reformist government that introduced a new democratic constitution and removed the various political restrictions that had contributed to the repression of the Marcos years. She died in 2009. Coming on the fifth position is Prime Minister Benazir Bhutto of Pakistan. She was Prime Minister twice, first from 1988 to 1990, secondly from 1993 to 1996. Educated in England, Benazir assumed the leadership of the Pakistan People's Party in 1979, following the execution of her father, former Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, a leading opposition figure under the dictatorship of General Zia-ul-Haq. She was elected Prime Minister of a coalition government in 1988 after his death. Bhutto's 2 terms in office helped democratize Pakistan after years of dictatorship, but her government was also accused of widespread corruption. After losing office a second time in 1996, she spent much of her later life once again in opposition, this time to the new dictatorship of General Pervez Musharraf. After a period of exile, she was assassinated in 2007, shortly after returning to her country. Her husband was then elected president in her place. The 6th position goes to the present Chancellor Angela Merkel of Germany. She has been the head of our country since 2005. Merkel grew up in East Germany, where she worked as a chemist. She became active in politics following the reunification of East and West Germany, and in 1991 she was elected to the Unified Parliament under the conservative Christian Democratic Party, and served as a cabinet minister under the government of Helmut Kohl. In 2000, she became head of the party, and in 2005 was elected Chancellor, Prime Minister. Following the crippling worldwide economic recession of 2008, Merkel has emerged as one of the world's most powerful leaders due to her tight command of the European Union's largest economy. Though her government has been financially generous towards some of Europe's more troubled nations, she has also pressed hard for austerity reforms to play a prominent role in any plan for long-term economic recovery, both at home and abroad. She is expected to run for another term. The 7th and last on our list is President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf of Liberia. First elected in 2006 and is the first African woman elected president. An economist by profession, Sirleaf was educated in the United States before returning to Liberia to serve in the government of President William Tolbert until his overthrow in 1980. Living mostly in exile for the next 25 years, she would make numerous attempts at a political comeback, but routinely faced jail terms and charges of treason for her activities. In 2005 she assumed the leadership of the united opposition to new dictator Charles Taylor, and in 2006 was elected president following his exile. Sirleaf's presidency has focused mostly on rebuilding Liberia's democratic institutions and fostering national reconciliation after decades of civil war and oppression, as well as helping modernize the country's economy. In 2011 she became the first ever female world leader to be awarded a Nobel Peace Prize. Now that's the top 7 women leaders in the world. Feel free to add yours.